Good night, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the CBC Referee Training Program. My name is Kendall Henry. Tonight, we, with myself and also Mr. Norval Young, we will be conducting this window on referees, coaches, and players' relationships. Tonight, we have invited numerous coaches to take part in this window. Tonight, I definitely is a great honor and a privilege of mine to introduce a very good friend of mine, Virgin Islands men's national team coach, junior men's national team coach, and a Division I assistant coach, Mr. Jareem Dowling from the U.S. Virgin Islands is on the line with us tonight. And I know they have various coaches also on the line with us tonight. And I would like to thank you very much for taking a time out of your busy schedule to join us in this session here tonight. Mr. Dowling, are you here with us tonight?
Casey, you can hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm here. It's a pleasure to be here. Anything to do with the islands, not just the Virgin Islands, you know I'm down for it. So whatever I can assist, helping, questions, suggestions. I'm very opinionated like Charles Barkley. So feel free to shoot away, whatever you need me to do, Casey.
Thank you very much for accepting our invitation to be here with us. Can you tell us a little bit about the school you're at, some of your accomplishment throughout the United States and internationally?
Man, I'm at the University of North Texas, which is located in Denton, Texas. I've been a college coach now for 15 years. I wouldn't be where I'm at today without Ronnie Richards, rest in peace, and his older brother Usi Richards, who invited me to be an assistant on the junior national team 13 years ago. And it just so happened that the person that they wanted to be the head coach couldn't be the head coach. And I got the opportunity to coach the team just on a substitution basis 12 years ago, and they never took it away from me since then. They have 3 presidents now that I've been coaching under. I take pride in dealing with the Virgin Islands especially, but all Caribbean islands as a whole. Won numerous medals at the junior level. Reached points that we've never reached before at the junior level. Assisted on the senior national team level, won medals with those guys as well. Had a lot of success collegiately. I worked my way up from junior college to Division II to Division I. Got into an investigation with the NCAA, so I had to take a year break. So I coached prep school basketball for a year. Then I got back into Division I, and I just finished my 15th year. We won the 2020 regular season championship for Conference USA, first time in school history. And we're just building on that and hoping we have a season this year. Whether it's November or January, we're just hoping to have a season. And I think just in general, basketball, I just use it to give back to people that look like me, and people that come from where I'm from, and help as much as possible, even if it's not with me, branching them out to other universities where they can get a chance to get a free education at whatever level, junior college, Division II, Division III, it doesn't matter. So that's pretty much my purpose in coaching. just to give back. You know, I feel that it's an avenue to give back to kids where I'm from, show them discipline through the game of basketball, use it as a carrot to, you know, make them better citizens as well as better basketball players. So that's a little short story. Married to a lovely wife from Louisiana, and I got a 6-year-old daughter that's going on 26 that lives in Maryland. So that's me.
Well, I definitely thank you. I mean, over the years, we have become very close friends. We have become running friends. We have been out on the wall together in Panama, running the streets of Panama. And
Yep.
we have become very good friends, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to definitely be here with us tonight. And to all the referees, as I mentioned yesterday, I want this to be more of an open mic, conversations. I know we have various referees, experienced referees, coaches, referees that were former players. I see we have Ms. Torres from the Bahamas. I see Hugh Clark from the Virgin Islands that are very experienced referees on dealing with coaches, players, relationships. But I have a couple questions. I'm going to definitely open up tonight because I have a list of questions that I would like to ask Jareem, because I know his experience from the NCAA and his experience in FIBA, you know, is definitely, you know, back and forth. And we definitely want to jump into his knowledge that he has to talk about some of his experience. The first question I have for you, Jareem, is what is your take as a coach and dealing with referee ego, the ego of a referee?
Are you talking about college or international?
Well, but let's talk about international first.
Well,
He got enough for a minute. If you could unmute your mic, yeah, there you go.
you in charge of the muting and the unmuting. You're the one that's probably muting because.
Yeah, I'll try to unmute you, but as I unmute you, you mute. So go ahead.
I get it. I think the pressure of international basketball is different on the referees, and I think they're not as friendly. And I think it's hard for American-speaking countries dealing with referees because there's not a lot of KCs running around. You know, I'm just being honest.
Are you talking about the language barrier, or are you talking about FIBA referee and the total?
I'm talking about the language barrier. I think it's harder to communicate with them, so a lot of miscommunication happens between two languages that don't understand each other, and because of that, I get a lot of technical fouls, and you know, they like to tell me they don't understand English, but them telling me they don't understand English is speaking English, you know, as petty as that might sound. But once I understood the game and how it's played internationally versus college, it's two different styles of play. I think the overall refereeing is a B+, and I think it could be better if there were more English-speaking referees to accommodate the games, you know, because it's at least bilingual, at least, you know, not just one-dimensional.
So your experience now in the CBC region, because this Zoom meeting is primarily with all English-speaking referees from the Caribbean nation, all 24 countries. In your experience, because I know you have one of your first experience was Antigua in 2008, CBC, Junior CBC. You also coach in the BVI, Senior Men CBC. What are some of your experience um, with egos? You know, still sticking on that topic with egos in dealing with in CBC, the English speaking Caribbean.
I think it's a lot of tension in the sense of guys want to know that they got command on the game, and it's crazy as it sounds, you know, it's just like a kind of a unspoken island animosity, you know, between certain countries that I might not know about, or the referee might know about, you know, that had previous interaction with somebody else, and they hold it on. I would have to say there's more grudges held against each other in the Caribbean referees than it is Hispanic.
So what are your experience like in the US now, changing to NCAA versus your FIBA experience? What are your experiences like dealing with egos in the NCAA?
I really don't deal with any egos per se. Every referee, I'm always able to talk to referees and communicate with them. They just hate when the head coach is nagging them and not reasonable in the way they approach. I think that the referees in college are more scared because they have a lot more at stake. You know, if they get suspended for a game, you know, that's a $1,500 to $5,000 paycheck for one game that they're missing out on.
That's right.
So they have a lot of pressure to perform, because at the college level, the referees watch the two opponents before they play each other, so they know certain tendencies that players play with. And they also watch the games after they're done. You know, every referee asks for a copy of the game when they're done to do a self-evaluation period. And I think in CBC and just international basketball per se, I've never heard of a referee going back and saying that they're watching the game. And
Well,
I've had referees.
I have to cut you off there, because we do definitely, after the game, at all FIBA levels, we do get evaluated. We do get pre-game, post-game conferences that we definitely look at video. Now, at the point that you're coming at, that referees come directly to the coach and actually have that conversation. I said, Coach Dowling, I know in the game yesterday, I missed a call. I know probably that scenario, you're probably not experienced as much. But to talk about the video aspect of the post and pre-game, we do get post and pre-game videos.
I got you. Well, it don't seem like a lot of them actually watching the video then, if that's the case.
So at the CBC level, you're looking for more communication from the referees.
Yep, definitely. More communication and understanding that just like we're trying to move up from the CBC to Central, they got to look at it that way too, because at the Division I level and sometimes internationally, I've talking to representatives that are in charge, and they ask me how you feel about so-and-so. So the same way you expect respect and, you know, getting a good recommendation, you got to keep that in the back of your mind too. Not saying give me any calls, but let's be reasonable to communication, because some referees just don't want to talk to you at all. They before you can even say, "Hey, sir," they're giving you the hand signal, and I get that from a lot of island referees.
So what about your philosophy on respect goes both ways? Because we as referees, I mean, I never had the privilege to referee against you because you have always, refereed the Virgin Islands team. I never had a privilege to referee against you. But what about that philosophy about respect goes both ways? Your approach to a referee, because based on my conversation with you, you're saying that referees are unapproachable.
Exactly.
So do you think that is something that you're doing personally that makes referees unapproachable, that you could do probably different?
Okay, 95% of the referees, I'm bigger than them. So my tone could be the same as a guy that's 5'5" tone, but my tone looks more aggressive because I'm 6'5", 275. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, it might come off different. And then the other thing with referees, I think we all should know this. As island people, we use our hands in gesture and talking.
Yeah.
So that could come off a way as demonstrative when it's really not,
Mm-hmm.
I give you an example. With my wife, anytime I talk, she gets so irritated when I move my hands. You know what I mean? And it's just how I grew up, using my hands to talk,
We use our hands to talk, yes.
Yeah. So, but other than that, somebody said something?
No, go ahead.
No, other than that, I've probably been more punished from having a confrontation with a referee in one game, and he goes back and talks to his buddies. So the next game, the other referees don't even give me a fair chance. Mm-hmm. It's a carryover, even if it's not the same referee.
So you're saying it's not an equal playing field. It's just a total unapproach concept to your coaching method.
Exactly, and I respect and understand it, because it's basically like a scouting report, like
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So but they got to be able to figure it out themselves versus just going based on somebody else's experience.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you from what happens from inside the huddle, because those type of conversations definitely happens in FIBA competition.
Okay.
Where we scout the coaches, we scout the players, we scout the teams. As we get our nominations and we started to meet that morning, the crew chief decides that he wants to meet before we get to the gym. And the first thing that comes up is who refereed this team, the both teams before. Who is your who is the star player? Who is the troublesome coach? Who is the troublesome player? So definitely, a scouting report is definitely done based on referees that have refereed one of your matches before.
Okay.
But I'm in saying that, I'm going to definitely say this. Sometimes coaches may have to change their approach. Sometimes just like how referees change their approach on a game, on a team, based on the matchup, because as a referee, when I'm looking at two teams, we definitely meet and talk about how the comparison and how equal a team is and how difficult the game may be tonight because how the matchup is. Now, as a coach, what type of different approach that you use. Because if you're getting that, hey, these referees don't want to talk to me because I am 6'6", 2 and change, you know, what different techniques that you use as a coach to get through to the referees?
Pretty much not say nothing or apologize if I did get out of character, you know.
Yeah.
Apologize and explain to them if they allow me to, because sometimes they just stay away. So it drives me even crazy that they're not even willing to meet in the middle when I'm like, okay, let me take the high road here and just admit that I was wrong, you know. And I appreciate when a referee admits that they missed the call.
Mm-hmm.
And we again, at the college level, we're fortunate enough with that where a referee will come back from halftime and said, I missed that one.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you know, because they can see the plays, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in order for me to change my approach, I try my best not to say anything at all.
Yeah.
You know, unless it's just blatant.
And just to give a little credit, because yesterday in our session, we definitely talked about, you know, referees communicating with coaches, especially if you make a mistake, you know, especially when you make a wrong decision and then the coaches react and then you give the coach a technical foul for the referee's wrong decision.
Mm-hmm.
So we as referees acknowledge that we need to be more approachable, but yet coaches still have to stay within that guidelines that you don't cross the line. Because crossing the line is very important to us. You know, we still have a reputation, to protect, and we still have a game to serve. You know, and if we're refereeing a particular game and, you know, we're allowing a coach to get away with stuff, it's because we are allowing that coach. Now, when the game gets down with 30 seconds left in the game, we don't want to jump and give that coach a technical foul because it's technically the referee dictates the game, you know, with that 30 seconds left. So it's very, very important for we as referees, what we allow early, and we discussed this yesterday, what we allow early, the boundaries, and what we permit as referees. Before you comment on that, I see we have Mr. Clark on the line. Mr. Clark, go ahead and unmute. You have something to say?
Yeah. I'm listening. I'm listening to the guy. I'm listening to you guys talking about the coach wants the referee to be approachable, but in my refereeing time, the coach wants to dictate the rules to you, and he don't really know the rules, and he wants to control you on the floor. And a lot of time, if you give that coach the first opportunity to approach you and dictate to you how the game should be going, you lose control.
But Mr. Clark, just one thing. Now, on that topic, before I go back to Jareen, we as referees have to remember we control that. We control what we allow. Now, if a coach approach us in a respectable manner, and I understand what you're saying, Mr. Clark, is that, you know, we don't want the coaches to be coming to us at every call, questioning every call, dictating, asking for an answer, asking for explanation. But again, it's on top of the referee to say, hey, coach, you're not going to question every call that I make. You understand? Now, if you come to me in an approachable way, in an explanatory way, then I will definitely come to you. But one thing that referees must not do is leave a coach hanging. Referees should not leave a coach hanging. even if a referee turned to the coach, a coach is calling the referee Henry. I have a question. Even if I turn and say, coach, I will be with you in a second. That acknowledgement goes a very, very long way. And I totally agree on you and what you said, Mr. Clark, but I definitely want to hear Jarika. That was one of my questions. Jareem, one of my questions is, why do coaches or you, if you ever did it before, why do coaches ask for explanation from a referee for every single call?
I don't do it for every single call. And I must admit, at times I do ask for explanation because some rules are different, slightly different than college rules. And, you know, I might need just a clarification on why they did something. To go back on what Mr. Clark said, I do agree with Mr. Clark that you could lose the game that way. But the thing is that irritates me a lot with referees. When they tell you stay in the box, right?
Uh-huh.
I feel at times that they patrol one more than the other, and they let the other get away with it. And then the other thing that irritates me with referees too is a coach. They might give a coach an opportunity to have a conversation with them, right? And because the other coach gave them an earful, you can't have that conversation with them because what the other coach did. So now you're suffering, and you might be coming from a good place and asking a legitimate question, but you're getting punished because of the behavior of the other coach, you know? So those are frustrating situations that happen in college, in international play, CBC, Central, it doesn't matter. You know, I think.
So you're looking, going back to talking to you about the coaching backs, you're looking for an equal playing in the coaching backs. And based on my experience, I'm going to tell you based on my experience. Now, for example, you have yourself coaching, and we have, you know, Mary Jane coaching the other team. Now, I definitely understand where you're coming from. If Mary Jane attacks me in a negative way, it may transpire over to Coach Dowling, stay in your backs.
Yes.
Coach Dowling, stay in your back. Instead of being approachable and listening instead of attacking first and then listening second. We as referees definitely cannot and shall not allow what happened on team A to dictate what happened on team B. We definitely have to, one of our most important jobs is to be neutral. Is to definitely be neutral. That's why when we go to competitions, we referee opposite of our national teams, because we want the referee supervisor want to make sure that we stay as neutral as possible. Neutral as possible. So I definitely understand what Coach Dowling is saying, that we shouldn't carry over within a game when we're talking about one coach is heckling us, and we should say, hey, you know, it should transpire onto the next coach who is trying to ask a particular question about the game. Our next question for you, and if there are any other coaches online that would like to definitely pop up and like to say something about the conversation, or referees would like to say something about the conversation, do like Mr. Clark, and you can raise your hand within the group, and I will allow you to open your mic, and you can ask Mr. Dowling or any other coaches any questions about, you know, referees, players, relationship towards, you know, referees. Our next question, Jareem. What is your comments about the referee view You know, do you what is your take if a referee comes to you and said, Coach, this is what I got. This is what I got, and this is what I saw. What is your approach to that? Although you saw something else, what is your approach to that?
I like when referees do that. I like when, because they might have a different angle and it might not seem like much, but I know it from refereeing in practice how hard it is for me to see something that the other assistant might see. So, and they've been doing it longer than probably I've been coaching. So I like when they come and they explain. I'll be like, all right, I got you. I understand. Cool. You know, but to expect coaches to not have human interactions with referees, good or bad, it's not realistic, you know, because we're all humans. We all have emotions. We all want to do a really good job of whatever our job is, whether it's a referee or coaching. And we want to make sure that our best foot is forward, you know, and as coaches, you want to protect your players at all costs, you know?
Definitely, definitely. And I'm very, very happy that you made that comment, because I as a referee really take it as, I can't say offensive, that when coaches come towards me and say that I'm protecting my players, because your intent of telling me that is telling me that, hey, referee, you're being unfair.
Mm-hmm.
You're being unfair. So you're being unfair, so I now have to protect my players. So, so is that an unwritten rule among coaches that you guys use from time to time? How do you use that particular statement?
Usually when using that particular statement, it probably gonna require you getting a technical foul too, because it's probably as a play that you have to defend your player on aggressively, because your players want to know that you have their backs. And
what about sorry to cut you off, but what about if you're wrong in defending that player?
Sometimes you gotta take it. Sometimes you're doing it because your team getting their butt whipped by 20, and sometimes it's not even personal with the referee. Sometimes it's just a tactic by coaches, to get their team going if you're down 20, or just trying to find a way to spark a fire in your team. Because I bet if you did a research on teams, coaches that got in technical fouls, that it was 75% positive that come out after that for that team that coach got attacked,
Got you. I see we have online Mr. Cunningham. Mr. Cunningham, if you feel the urge to interject at any particular time, we will definitely be grateful to allow you to, coming from great basketball knowledge. Welcome to tonight's session, Mr. Cunningham.
Yes, sir. Okay, can I weigh in right here? Right quick?
Definitely, sir.
I concur with the young man, because I've coached about 40-some years, and sometimes coaches use that tactic. It's not really about, well, there's two parts to it. One can be from the aspect that he's talking about motivating his team and getting them riled up. But the other part of that too, what I've experienced over my 40-something years, being a referee and being a coach, when I come to the game, you got to be on top of your P's and Q's, because see, I'm a trainer of officials, and I'm very knowledgeable of what they're supposed to do, and and so forth. But I don't impose that on referees. But on the other hand, sometimes you push them to the point where you get the technical foul, right? To make them put boots up, to make it. Sometimes referees get relaxed in games. You understand me? And let things go that they normally wouldn't let go. And then when you show them up to the point of a technical foul, they say, okay, let's take charge of this game. And then things go smoothly, right? So
Yes.
that's what I'll weigh in on that perspective, from a coaching perspective, right? Because that's a tactic I've used over the years, and 99.9% of the times it worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
That might work for other coaches, but I know it worked for me, right?
So you use it, Mr. Cunningham. You use it as a fuel to charge up your team.
Yeah, I use in one case, yes, and then in some cases, I hate to use this word, but I'm gonna use it anyhow. I'm gonna get in trouble for it later on. But sometimes referees come to the game, and I call it stinking up the court, and they stink the court up. And so because they not doing their job properly, instead of using that word, right? Sometimes I have to push them to the point where, look here, man, you all got to do better. I need better from you. I need your best effort tonight. I don't need you to just be relaxed in the game. You understand me? Because you have those games. And as an official, sometimes you come to the game, you bring all the other issues you bring from your day with you when you come. You're a human being like anybody else. But sometimes in most leagues, there's no commissioner at the table. There's no supervisor of the referees in the gym to at halftime, get them focused or give them a nod, look here, tighten it up. So you as a coach that's a part of the psychology of coaching.
Yes.
You have to do whatever it takes you have to help them get organized indirectly, per se. You understand me?
Definitely. And your comments is definitely accepted at our level, Mr. Cunningham. I had an opportunity to referee with you within the Bahamas, with numerous trips, and also referee against you as a coach. And as I was telling Mr. Brown, your tactics is very, very cunning.
I mean, you learn from experience. Yeah.
Yes.
You learn from experience. Something, and sometimes, most of the time, I'm a very nice guy when it comes to coaching. I don't worry about the referees because I prepare to win. You understand me? So if you come to the gym prepared as a coach, you don't have to really worry about the referee. During the game, I don't worry about the referee. I get my kids to play better basketball. So if you take the whistle out of the referee's mouth and they don't have to make calls, you have things go smoothly. You understand me? So I focus on getting kids to play better basketball from a coach's perspective.
Definitely. Mr. Cunningham, don't go nowhere. Mr. Clark has his hand up. I have a question for you, Mr. Cunningham. Mr. Clark, you have the floor.
Yeah, this is for the coaches. I know some of them coaches you're speaking to have coached on different level. And sometimes they come to the game and the game that they're doing, the rules are slightly different and they get confused with the different levels that they have coached and also with training their players. They train their players according to things that they see in the different leagues that doesn't go with the game that you're refereeing at this present. Has that ever happened to any of these coaches?
Jareen, Mr. Cunningham, any other coaches online?
Well, I can speak for the Bahamas. And I know in Freeport, in the Bahamas,
Mr. Cunningham, you can't speak for the Bahamas because you have traveled around the world coaching. So you speak.
Well, I can speak. Well, he said locally. So I'm just dealing locally, right? Because actually when I travel, we always play FIBA. Everywhere I've traveled, we played FIBA basketball. But I know when I've traveled to let me put it like this: one of our local islands here, they play NCAA rules in some of their tournaments, right? And so it can be confusing for the kids because when they do come to play like in a national tournament where they've been playing that NCAA rules where they could call a timeout on the floor, they get in a close game and they get tied up and they go timeout, and they either travel with the ball or commit a violation of some sort. And so that's where the confusion always come in. And they've had a number of situations like that I've seen.
Definitely. Jareen, any insight on that?
Mark Nicholas.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Mr. Nicholas, you
Yes, sir.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. How you doing, Mr. Kendall? This is Mark Nicholas and Mr. Cunningham from Turks and Caicos Island.
How are
All
you,
right.
boss?
Um, I'm good. The question I have, that as a young coach, referee, I mean, when I started reffing, um, it was kind of discouraging. But the question I have, what impact do you guys agree on coaches bad mouthing or talking down to about referees to their players during a timeout or before a game, before any game? Do you guys agree on coaches negatively talking about a specific referee, sudden referee, and what impact you think it have on the team game, on that what impact you think it may have on the players during the
Jareen, you hear the question?
Yeah, so basically he's saying if in the timeout, if coaches is talking about the referee.
Yeah, if you just condone or allow your players, and that was one of my questions, allow your players to downpark the referees in a negative way. Do you allow that
Nah,
as a coach?
no. At no level I've ever been at was that allowed to, other than the captain speaking to the referee in a respectable manner, no players to ever show up the referee or even talk negative about him. And then as coaches, we might say amongst each other as a staff that these referees are screwing us, but we never use that that connotation to the players, because then that gives them a cop out to be like, we can't win then, you know?
So what
We
are
just,
what are your instructions as you mentioned the captain? What are your instructions to your captain to approach the referees?
well, the instructions to the captains to approach the referee, 99% of the time, I might use the captain to get the referee's attention, to tell him, yo, coach want to talk to you. I don't ever leave it to the player to have a conversation unless the referee goes and approaches the captain to tell him about another teammate, you know? Because most coaches pick the right captain to where he can handle himself in unique situations and not affect the team by doing something stupid to a referee.
Got you. Mr. Cunningham, any insight?
Well, I will take it from the beginning of the game. In some leagues, you know, in some tournaments, you get to know who the referee is going to be ahead of time. In most situations, you don't. And so when you walk into the gym, that's when you find out who you have as the official. I never, in all of my years, I have a philosophy, and it's simply this: players play the game, and I'm going to talk to the referees. Unless I send the captain to ask a question, like previously said. I don't encourage players to be disrespectful. If you be disrespectful, matter of fact, if you play for me and you get a technical foul, I'm taking you out because you're hating the team. You understand me? That's everybody know that. Even when I coach I coach junior national boys, I coach women's national, men's national team. They know this is what's expected from them. They have to conduct themselves a certain way. Now, when I go to the gym, sometimes what I do tell players, when I see who the two referees are going to be, even if when I go to an international tournament, referees have tendencies to call things. Like a guy who might call charge a lot, or he might call travel a lot, or if you put hands on, he'll call holding a lot. So I would instruct our players, I would say, gentlemen, you got to keep your hands off. Don't reach. Get good footing. Watch out for the charge, because this referee will call the charge. So we can draw some charges in this game. So I try to use the strength and knowledge I know from watching referees call games to my advantage. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. So and even when I come to the gym and I say, oh Lord, geez, I got him again tonight. I don't let my players know, right? I in my head I say, look here, this my strategy have to change a little bit because of who calling the game. If I wanted to press and get aggressive, I said, no, we ain't doing that tonight, because this official ain't gonna let you do some of those things. You ain't gonna get away with some of those things. You understand me?
Yes.
So you adjust according to who's calling the game. That's it.
So, Jareen, do you share the same insight as Mr. Cunningham when it comes to when you see who's on the game?
Yeah, definitely. That was a very good point that you brought up because that's probably, especially at the college level, international. I know how to operate now since I've been doing it 10 plus years with certain people, internationally. And as well as us doing our scout report on the other opponents, we know 48 hours before who we have as referees at the college level. And we know what's going to be allowed and what's not going to be allowed,
Definitely, definitely. Our next question, and to all my referee friends, if you have a question, you can raise your hand on top of your screen. Mr. Brown is monitoring the group chat. We will definitely get to you. If you have any questions for the coaches that are online tonight, as I say, this is an awesome conversation that we're having. We have 2 international coaches with us, and we're having a definitely great insight to the relationship that referees and coaches with the players should have with us as referees. I have a question, and this is probably one of my biggest pet peeves. And to try to know what a coach, inside of a coach, what are coaches looking for from a referee in a game? Jareen.
Just the same calls, because they might call a block on this end and said, the guy had his arms like this leaning forward, and they call out a foul on this end, and then the other end they don't call it the same way. That's the same call. If you're going to referee a game one way, stay that way all 4 quarters. Don't switch up. So now, as coaches, you're able to understand the style of play that you're in for that game. You can't switch from, being a physical game the first 5 minutes or being ticky-tack the last 5 minutes,
Yeah, I understand. Mr. Cunningham?
I expect consistency when officials come to the floor. And when I say consistency, based on the referees, them normally, that's like how we scout the teams and know the officials. They know the coaches, and so they know if you play an aggressive style of basketball and you like to press, play man to man, half court press and trap or whatever. They know that they have to make adjustments, and all I ask for is consistency from both officials when they call in the game. And sometimes I might have to call a timeout and say to the head referee, X, Y, Z, why can we get in position to see this or watch out for this or please watch out for that? Nice and calm, so they would know that that something's happening and they just letting it go, right? Because sometimes the referee may pass on something. I officiate, so I know they're gonna pass on some things they don't feel is necessary, but I would look at those things. That might be something I might need that call actually, to get to the one-on-one or something like that, to have that advantage down at the end.
Definitely. I see Mr. Clark has a hand raised. Go ahead and mute Mr. Clark.
Yeah, I think that the referees are taking a lot of critique right here in this conversation. And coaches got to understand that we have most of the time, three referee on the court. And from the standpoint of the coach, a lot of time the coach cannot see the play as good as the referee. And to be like the one guy saying he want the same call on the other side as he got on this side, maybe he sees something different that happened down there and the coach can't see that. And referees cannot take the beating in every game because coaches want to referee the game and coach at the same time. I think it's a big injustice for referees listening to this conversation where it seems like we the bad person all the time. The coaches don't do nothing wrong, only the referees.
Well, I mean, Mr. Clark, in this conversation, we just want to see the insight of what the expectation of coaches is. I totally understand where you're coming from, because we have to remember that referees are held at a higher standard when it comes to the game. I know referees get bashed all the time from players, fans, coaches, you know, but again, referees hold a higher standard. We are looked at as the keepers of the game. You know, we are here to serve the game. So again, that approach that you're coming from, I know we have had numerous conversations, and the proper way and how coaches should approach referees.
Yes.
You know, and I totally agree on you, but you know, the way how I lean in the conversation tonight is just to get an insight on what the coaches is looking for from the referees, so we can better prepare ourselves. Not to take a bashing, 'cause as I mentioned yesterday, you know, I took the FIBA level 1 and level 2 coaching clinic, and I took it not to pass or not to say I am a certified coach. I took it so I can know inside of what coaches are thinking, so I can have a better understanding of the coaching world. And that's
That's why I asked that question earlier, you know, about the coach that coach on different levels. Because you're coaching on different levels, you're training on different levels,
yes.
And then you come to a game, and your mind there on a different level than the level you're coaching at this present time, and you're heckling the referee, and you're heckling the referee about the wrong call. You know, and we gotta get on the same page. A lot of, instead of heckling the referee, you do it in a respectable way. You know, just like you say, coach, ref, when you got time, I want to have a word with you. He mentioned a while ago the coaches' box, and I had a good experience with that. The two coaches are coaching outside of the box, but the one coach is coaching in front of the viewing table. And then when you talk to him, he gets upset. Oh, but he's out of his box though. And
so they throw the blame on the other coach.
Right.
Yeah. But the other coach is calm and collective, and he is irate and being disrespectful.
But the situation is different. That's what I'm showing.
Yeah. It's
the
two different.
The situation is one coach is out of the box in front of the viewing table. The next one is out of the box. He probably on the floor. Some of them like to walk out on the floor and coach on the floor. And because you're telling the one coach, hey, look, you can't be in front of the table. You go get back in your box. Oh, but he out of his box though.
Yes, totally understand. Totally understand. I see somebody have their hand raised.
Sidwell Glasgow.
Go.
Sidwell Glasgow from Turks Island, I think, has his hands up.
Yeah, go ahead and unmute Glasgow. You go
good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Yeah, Glasgow here from Turks and Caicos. A question that I have, or an observation, especially in the local leagues, small islands, the degree of familiarity between the coaches, probably players, and the referees, because in an informal setting, sometimes that carry over into the game, and that is where you find some of the conflicts and some of the imbalances in terms of refereeing. Now, how can referees, especially, I know Turks and Caicos, for example, is a very small island. How do you balance that in terms of the professionality and the separation between that familiarity when it comes to the game? Because, you know, once you have winners and losers, somebody will always feel disenfranchised. So that is a question that I would like to pose to basically the referees, Mr. Cunningham, or Mr. Somebody can answer that for me.
Well, thank you for the question. I experience that all the time, and I know many of us here in the group have experienced that all the time. You know, at our local level. You know, and this comment, the comment that I've heard all the time, I've heard it from Jareem, I've heard it from many of our professional athletes in the Virgin Islands, that I referee better international than I do locally. I hear that all the time. I hear that all the time, that I referee better internationally than I do locally. You know why? Because
Let me answer. Right? Let me see if I can answer it.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Because you're refereeing better players?
Not that, no, ain't that.
Okay.
Ain't
Okay,
that.
all right.
It's just that the conflicts on the local level, we're such a small community. Everybody know everybody. Everybody know everybody. You know, I teach here in the Virgin Islands, so I know everybody. Hugh Clark teach in the Virgin, he know everybody. We know everybody and their families, so it's very, very personal. So at the local level, we definitely, it is where more referees, coaches relationship is formed at the local level than more at the international level. And we can take that tool and definitely carry it to the international level. Because as I mentioned yesterday, having great people skills is very, very important. It's very important to our game. And whatever we practice at the local leagues, our local superior leagues, carry over into our international careers. As Freddie Brown and many others that have been to the Virgin Islands, you know, or throughout the Caribbean, have continuously stressed to our local referees is to continue to referee the same as you referee home in the Virgin Islands, as you referee abroad in international play. Now, it may be very, very difficult to do the same because the level of competition varies very much. But as I have been told on many occasions, you know, as for example, the last Caribbean Championship was in Suriname. Suriname hosts the men and female competition for CBC. And myself and my other Virgin Islander, Mr. Gilbert Bagnac, had not officiated any games because of Hurricanes Irma and Maria. But we still had that concept of carrying over what we knew that FIBA recommend as referees, you know? So carrying what we learned from our local leagues is very, very important. Very, very important. You understand? So again, yes, I understand it's two different aspects of the game, but how we referee at home really depends on how our career at the international level will vary and carry us to the top. I see we have a question here from Mr. Nichols. I don't know
I
if I
think
said
some of the locally, some most of our coaches, like I know here in the Turks and Caicos, the coaches, yeah, some of them are not up to date with the FIBA rule. So now when like myself and the training go out there to the zero step, now the zero step. Now a lot of them going to be making noise when they don't know, oh, this should be traveled, this should be traveled. When now I know is the zero step is a new rule, and most of the coaches, they don't know the rules. So that's why sometimes I think it make it more difficult locally when you as a ref to ref in your own community.
And I definitely agree with you on that. But here is my approach. Here is my approach from a local level. We meet we meet every Sundays to give schedules, to have referee trainings. During the week, I advise coaches, coach, you want to learn more about the rules? Meet us at Cladamarco Gym at 3 p.m., where we have all the referees there. And we can really talk about the rules of the game and about different situations and about what happened, exactly what happened in your game. Now, I think we had a referee from the Bahamas last night that mentioned if it was okay, he meet after the game with coaches to discuss the rules. And I told him, hats off to you, because some of us don't have that type of patience where we stick around after the game and we say, hey, come, let's go through the rule books and let's discuss what happened throughout the game. Because some of us feel that that's not the right setting or what not to. But like I said, hats off to him, that he took time out of his busy schedule after the game to say, coach, this is the rule and this is what happened. And I definitely agree with you on many different levels that coaches doesn't take the time out to learn the rules of the game. And I mean, in-depth rules of the game. And we definitely have to give them kudos because, I mean, some coaches, some head coaches leave it up to their assistants, and the assistant head coach to actually get into the nitty-gritty of the rules of the game, I think I like to hear Jareem comment on it because he's coming from both NCAA and FIBA rules, so he's kind of flip-flopping all the time. Jareem?
Again, in the first 2 years, it was hard to adjust to. But now I understand the rules, and just like you guys do as referee, because this is a major credit to you, and I want to apologize to the one gentleman that think this is a bashing. It's not a bashing. I think Casey brought me on here to be honest with y'all, to just get one man's perspective versus thinking that all coaches are right or all coaches got all the answers, because we don't. And we know that y'all job is hard, and I think somebody said it. You got to deal with the players, the coaches, and the fans. You know what I mean? So that is, a triple double right there. But as coaches and as referees, like y'all doing tonight, we got to prepare ourselves and educate ourselves on the game that we're going to coach. You can't just come with one mindset, because you're doing your players a disservice. You're doing the game a disservice if you're coaching with one mindset. Saying like, I expect it to be a college type game, a college type call, and you can't expect that when you're coaching 15 to 18-year-olds or guys that are in college, 21 to 25-year-olds. The games are all different for those different age groups. So I think if you educate yourself on the prospective game or level that you're coaching at, you're going to do yourself a solid by not headaking yourself, because you know what you're getting yourself into, and you're going to do the referees a solid by having a valid point in argument versus wasting the referee's time for a call that the referee is 100% right about because it's international rule and not college rules.
Yeah.
Just got to study the game.
Definitely. Mr. Cunningham, we want to chime in before I go to Mr. Clark?
Yes, I would say this, because I've coached on the college ranks myself. And one thing I liked about coaching in the CIAA was that they had a little card that they gave us, and we had to rate the referees, the three referees that called the game, and And if we give, it was like on a scale from I think 1 to 5 on each referee. And if you give anything below 3, you had to write an exam. You had to give a reason for giving them less than anything less than 3. And I felt that kept us honest, and it kept in making our evaluations, because some people just don't like certain referees or something like that. But from my experience, this is what I would say to all the referees, because I've refereed for some 45 years. You must know that that coaches know and understand the rules just as good as you or better than you. That's the first thing I want all of you young referees and all the referees to understand. And so, just like how we work on our craft to be good coaches, and you work on your craft to be good referees, you must understand that there are people who are knowledgeable about the game, especially when you're on the international beat. There's a lot of coaches, they know the rules inside and out. And so you have to accept the fact that they know. And so now it's your job, that put pressure on you to do your job and do it to the best of your ability. And so I don't focus on referees when I come to officiate. I focus on my players and trying to win the game, right? So when you come to the gym to call a game and you see me on the sideline, you could tell the switches I'm not ready. I'm not there to focus on you. I'm here to win the game. And so winning is the first thing for me and most coaches, and giving my team the best effort and opportunity to win the game. So we're not bashing you. All we're saying to you, you got to be the best that you could be every night you come. Because when you come to call a game with me, I know the game just as good as you, or probably better than you. So if you're a young referee, and I have more experience than you, and I know if you're out of position, you make a call on the run, and I see where you are, and you made a call, and I know you guessed that call, I'm gonna be like, wow. I mightn't say anything to you, but to address one more point before I go, because we are in small environments, when the game is over, sometimes you go home, you change your clothes, and you're gonna go out to have a beer and just relax yourself. You might go to the disco, or you might go to a restaurant or wherever, and meet the fellas from the teams, one of the teams that you just officiated that night. And so you have to know how to handle yourself as a referee, because that has happened to me and a lot of other referees before. And so sometimes when teams win a championship, they may even invite you to their little party. And sometimes I go, you show your face, and I gone. I just show your face, say, hey, I was here, I gone. Because when you go, if you go and you start talking to them, someone see that and they get on the phone, they call the guy and say, boy, look at that ref who just called your game last night, boy. He here in Mariotta's, boy. I'm having a drink with these fellas, boy. I see why y'all get beat, right? But that's not the case. They just so happen to be in the same place at the same time, and the fellow might ask a question, or the courtesy you entertain him, So you as a referee have to say, you know what, coach, I can't discuss that with you tonight, right now, but on maybe another time we could discuss it, And so you don't know who's watching you, so it's just life, but you have to use common sense and how you handle it, and that's all I can say to you as from a referee perspective. Because I train referees and I try to get them not to do what the good chap did when he took time after a game to talk to the referee. I try to encourage our young referees and our referees on the whole, don't have discussions after games with referees, with coaches. Wait until another time. You see them in the mall or someplace, then talk. Don't talk after the game because the coach hot. And sometimes he hot, even if he win, he's still hot.
Definitely. I agree with you. Mr. Clark, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I want to say the same thing just now what this guy said, but I would like to apologize if the guys take it a little wrong, how I put it out, that referees are being bashed. But as you know, in the Virgin Islands, when we go to meeting with coaches, a lot of time the coaches blame everything on the referee. Everything that happened in the game, It has to do why they lost the game. They lost the game because the referee making bad call. But the guy that was just on just now, he makes some good points.
Mr. Cunningham.
With young referees coming on, and the coach might know more. And because the coach may think that he know more, that should not give the coach a reason to heckle the young referee because he know he's a young referee and he doesn't know the rules as he know it. Because it for us, some of the experience that I have went through is one of the reasons why we can't get young referees to come on board, because things that they see when they come to the game. And they see these older coaches doing stuff that is unorthodox. For instance, I will hear a coach at the beginning of a game saying, hey, it's my job to heckle the referee. It's my job to, I'm going to take a tech. I'm going to take a tech for the team. Let me get a tech. Those kind of things, when a young referee comes on board, he might not come back after that. That might be first and the last game.
But again, Mr. Clark, we always have conversations about recruiting referees. And something I always say is that we have to find a way on how to recruit referees. It's a part of the job. I mean, not to say it in such a harsh way, but it is a part of the job because it's a part of the game. It's a part of the game that coaches is going to be on referees, and referees going to have to deal with it. And I think, I don't know if it's Mr. Cunningham or Mr. Dowling said that, Mr. Cunningham said that when he's on a game, for example, if he's on a game and I'm going to referee, I know I got to be on my P's and Q's. I know that. Because this is a coach that has been refereeing for 45 years, that no, I have to become a referee, and I definitely have to be on my P's and Q's. So again, it's something that we as referees is a continuous training. When we have young officials, we have to train. I get to a point where it can be discouraging, but that's why if I'm refereeing with a so-called rookie referee, I'm telling you, every timeout, every dead ball, every halftime, quarter, overtime, I'm in his ear. That's my teacher moment. And many referees on this car could tell you, when they have referee with me, every dead ball, I had something to say. Because
what about your first international game? A young FIBA referee.
I'm gonna tell you about it. Freddie was there. It was in the Dominican Republic in 2004. Dominican Republic in 2004.
Yep.
Frederick did the boys championship game with a Costa Rican Roberto from Costa Rica, and I did the championship game with a senior referee from Costa Rica. And I'm going to tell you about that game. This guy didn't know any English, at all. So our pre-game happened with Brenda. Brenda was a female referee from Puerto Rico. Yes, Freddie Noah, Vanessa Noah from Puerto Rico. And she helped us with our pre-game. Now, that was then. Now, many Hispanic referees are bilingual, And I'm going to tell you this. I was a brand new referee. Never refereed FIBA basketball before. And Freddie game then was next. And I went into the locker room at halftime, and I was scared. You know why I was scared? Because not by the coaches, not by the fans. In the Dominican Republic, you had fans throwing ice onto the floor. They was throwing ice onto the floor. We had to stop.
Ice and bottles and
Yes, we
plastic
had to
bottles.
stop the first half of the game 3 times to clean the floor. And that's when we used to referee 2-person officiating.
Why were they trying ice?
Well, because the local team was getting beat and they figured that it wasn't getting their way. But again, the reason why I tell you that is because at the local level, at the local leagues, that's where our first form of training comes from our experienced referees, from our former FIBA referees. Because at that moment, my crew chief, 2-man officiating, my crew chief could not communicate with me because he didn't know English. You understand? And if I didn't have the experience that I have grasped from our local leagues, our local officials, the trainings that we have put in place, I would have never been prepared. I would have never been prepared. So yes, Mr. Clark, you are absolutely right where that we can definitely, coaches could definitely be easy or try to be easy and referees, but we as referees have to be prepared. We have to be prepared. You as a military man know that you're going into combat, you have to be prepared. So again, as senior officials, and I hope you have a lot of senior officials in this conversation, prepare our young referee. Prepare our young referees because the international level is different from our local level. Our international coaches is different from our local coaches. And we have to maintain that. We have to find a way where we balance and it's not a battle. It's not a battle. You know, it's like I tell people, we use this word cuss all the time. I don't cuss. I have discussions. I have discussions about the game. I don't cuss. When me and you having a conversation, we having a conversation because we as referees are here to serve the game. That's our number one. That's our number one priority is to serve the game. To serve the game. And that's
got a hands up.
very important. Go ahead, Frederick.
You have a hands up, Kevin Sterling.
Oh, sorry about that. Go ahead, Kevin.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Love the conversation, you know, and definitely love the training. And 2 of my trainers are in the group, Sir Frederick, and I say Sir Knight, and Sir Randy Cunningham. You know, and again, you know, I have to pay respect, you know, to these gentlemen, because much of what you're discussing tonight is what I would have been brought up under. And you know, platforms like these are very important. We're networking on a larger scale. Some of you guys, I've never even known that you exist, but looking at the chat and hearing the dialogue, I can say, boy, you know what happened? I have referee brothers and sisters in different parts of the world, and now we form a network. But what I wanted to add 2 points is this. I believe we learned this earlier in one of the previous modules. Communication is also very important, especially when you are dealing with a referee a coach who you may figure know the game more than you. Because I could remember in a game I was calling, and there was a little foul that happened in the backcourt as the player was coming up with the ball. Now, when I'm passing the coach, said to me, man, why you didn't call that? You need to call that. You know, according to the rule book, article so-and-so, that's a call. I said to him, I said, when I coming back down, I'm going to tell you why I didn't blow the whistle, all right? So, in coming back the next way, when I passed him, I said, listen, when we had the break, I said to him, listen, you know why I didn't call that? You're blowing out the team by 58 points, brother. Come on, honestly, how is it that what you're saying, and you're correct, and I respect that. But is that going to affect the game or the outcome of the game? He said no. He said, man, referee, I respect you. I respect you. Thanks for explaining, and now I see your point. You know, and so I believe that communication, you know, and how you deal with situations, you know, is very, very important, especially when whether you're dealing with an experienced coach or an inexperienced coach. You know, and I think that the second point I wanted to make is that as a young referee, you know, we should never be intimidated by seniors. Sir Randy and Sir Frederick could tell you, I'm always asking them, if I'm calling a game, you know, when the game is over, I'm going to you to ask you, well, I saw you sitting in the gym. How did I do? You know, tell me where I went wrong. How can I improve? This is the only way you're going to get better at your craft. You know, and my last point is, I think this could help with the recruiting, is that we could look at the high schools. You know, there are a lot of kids who may love the game. I don't know if in some of you guys in your local, if they use young students when they're playing like high school ball to record the game, to score the game, stuff like that. You know, once you get an interest there, then you know, try to recruit youngster, because we don't get people walking off the street anymore saying they want to be a referee. So I think we need to go to the school level and you know, try to put in a farm system so we can almost breed the type of officials
Yes,
that you want. All right.
definitely. And I think you had two of the best teachers in the Caribbean right there. You can't ask for better than that. But you know, in going based on your point, you know, us as referees definitely have to find a formula. I know as we go along, every island, every country has its challenges, you know, you know, and how we deal with it is unique, and for that particular country, you know, and your second point, being a student of the game. I mentioned this yesterday, you know, being a student of the game, you know, I have I had the opportunity to have 3 certified FIBA referees living in the Virgin Islands and on the island of St. Croix when I was becoming a FIBA referee, and they is the ones that actually helped me and project me to become a FIBA referee. And some of us don't have that luxury, you know, to have that senior official or to have that senior mentor. And it's very, very important. It's very, very important, because I know I have been through some struggles and some tribulations, you know, within the local referee association, that young officials will definitely go through. And you have to definitely be strong and persevere and look at the bigger picture, because at the international level, most of the challenges, most of the tribulations that you go through on the local level, you will not find on the international level. You will not find. Mr. Clark, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I gonna change it a little bit, change up a little bit.
Change it up a little bit.
Yes. And I want to hear from the coaches. I want to hear from the coaches.
Mr. Cunningham, Mr. Dowling still here. Go ahead.
Yes, you have team followers and very aggressive coaches. Coaches who like to put their hand on referees. Team followers who like to be in the back, heckling, causing confusion, and these things trickle down to the team members. How should we deal with aggressive coaches and that level?
Followers.
Yeah.
Let me take a start with that. This is what I do. And I've done this from when I first came into officiating. I start coaching in 1977 is when I started coaching basketball. I started coaching junior boys basketball. and I had a whole community behind me. And when I came to the gym, we had some fans that thought, you know, the referee wasn't doing us right, and they throw things on the court and all these kinds of things, and they talk bad to the referee. The one thing that I did, and I've always done in my career as a coach, even at the college level, when I coach college ball, I take charge of the fans. I felt a sense of responsibility to take that load off the referee. Because if you cheering for me, I'm going to go in the stands, or I'm going to have enough eye contact with you, and I'm going to tell you, no, that's not acceptable. We're not doing that. And if you're going to continue, I'm going to ask you to leave the gym, right? Don't follow us. And all of my fans know that. And the people, I have a good relationship with most of my fans, to the point where when I ask them to conduct themselves in a different manner, they will do so. And so there was a few I had to escort out the gym because the referee wanted them out the gym, and I had to put my hand around their waist and say, "Come on, let's go. We got to walk out of here." And I walked them outside because sometimes it got to that. And so if you have to do that, that's what I did. Now, not every coach is prepared to do that, but I have a sense of integrity and commitment to the game to be a good example to the children, and to be a good example to the fans and the people that support our game. And so we collectively have to do that. I would like to just make one point on recruitment for all of you senior referees, and from a coach's perspective, because I want on the fence. I do both. Let me tell you, all of you senior referees, something. Recruiting is every day. Recruiting for the fine officials is every day. That's number one. Those people who are heckling in the stands and are the loudest, man, look here, the first opportunity I get, I let them know. I said, man, you seem to know a lot about the game. You have a good knowledge of the game. How about I get your number? And when we have the next clinic, we'll invite you to come out and start calling the basketball game. And I said, I guarantee you, your perspective will be different. And I've recruited a number of officials like that, scorers, timers, etc. What I say to you is this: you senior referees, go after the 13, 14, 15-year-old kids and get them to call mini basketball, get them to call junior high school basketball, and then you have 5 or 6 years to get them ready. I was happy when people changed the age to 25, because in the Bahamas, we have a situation where we had a lot of young boys, because that's my philosophy. My philosophy is get the young people calling the game, because I'm on a mission right now, and I'm speaking from a referee perspective now, to train 60 referees under the age, between the age of 13 and 25, 30. And then I know for the next 10 to 15 years, officiating in the Bahamas will be in, and then I'm gonna retire from doing it. Right? Now you hear me on the record on that, right? When I get to 60, under 25, I'm gonna step away. Now you know what I'm doing right now as a senior referee and coach? I'm training people to be coaches, young boys and girls to be coaches, and I'm training people to take my job right now. And so you cannot go into retirement, you senior referees, and don't train somebody to be as good as you. Now, when you're ready to retire or you're going to walk away from the game, make sure you train about 4 or 5 people to be as good as you. And then you have done your part.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Cunningham, for that marvelous response. I just want to change it to the females of the group. I know we have couple females that I have refereed with. I know we have Mr. Rez. I see we have Jillian, and then we have Vanessa that are FIBA referees. But I want to get their insight as females, handling coaches, handling players. Because for example, I remember in 2000, Vanessa, what year? 2006. Vanessa Williams refereed the CBC Senior Men Championship game in the British Virgin Islands, and you know, and she was at that time, she was invited at that tournament, and I know, you know, so where Vanessa there? Vanessa, Vanessa. Good night, Miss Williams. How are you?
Good night. I'm good, and you?
Well,
I feel good.
I'm okay. Go ahead and give me some of your insight in your coaching players' relationship as a female aspect.
Well, if I were to start from the beginning, I'll try to be as short as possible in the interest of time. But in the beginning of my refereeing career, I was just actually thrown into a game locally once because I officiated on the table and somebody didn't come, and it was like, okay, you come and do the game. And that's how I was baptized by fire, basically. From there, like you, I had Dexter Cumberbatch at the time, who was a FIBA referee. And I also had Julie Bonnet, who was a FIBA referee. Actually, I think we were the first two females in the region, as far as I know. And in the beginning, it was difficult because a lot of coaches and players see it as a men's game. So a lot of them used to be like, the women don't know what they're about and they don't know the rules. And for me, I looked at it as a game. There are rules, you follow the rules as best as you can, you implement the rules as best as you can. And yes, we had to run, and I ran just as hard as the men. That's just how I saw it. That's how we had to do it. Eventually, we were accepted. In terms of communication with the coaches, for me, I try my best to explain as best as I can. What I have found, though, is that there are some coaches who would still, they would not accept your explanation. They ask you for an explanation, and you give it to them the best that you can based on your knowledge of the rules. But then they turn around and they tell you something else. So then, like, you caught there. So usually what I do, I say, I just let them know, well, okay, probably that's a good opportunity for you to now go to the rule book and verify whatever I am saying, whether you think it's right or wrong. But I believe in communication with coaches. I firmly believe in communication with players, effective communication, that is, especially at the local level. At the international level, it was a lot easier for me because you didn't know anybody, nobody knew you. So you came and you facilitated the game the best that you could. You provided the best service that you could. But then at the local level, it's a totally different thing. Everybody knows everybody. And then you have players, even before the game, they would say, Vanessa again, take all this on me, take all that on me. You know, after the game, they meet you. I have met players, some of whom locally, I don't even remember, probably they didn't get too much playing time. And they would meet me at the bank or whatever, and all of them called me ref. And ref, remember the bad call you made on me? And I'm like, dude, I'm at the bank. What rubbish you telling me, you know, that kind of thing. And so for me, effective communication in the game is very, very important. If you can build a relationship with players where if you do make an error, because all of us are human, we will miss something, we will make errors. And you can admit that to the player, you know, I missed that one. Oh boy, you know, I probably should not have called that. And for me, I see that as fine. I that as part of the game. I see that as part of your development as a referee, your personal development, and as part of developing a relationship with the players and with the coach as well. That's just my simple take on, and that's what I've done throughout the years. Right now, I referee at the local level only, and still, I would talk to the players, talk to the coach. It's as simple as that for me. But as a female in the game, in the beginning, it was like super difficult, really, really.
Thank you very much, Vanessa, for your insight from the female aspect. Therese or Jillian, do you guys want to add anything? Go ahead, Therese.
Good night, everybody. I share the same sentiments that Vanessa do, but I also want to add that what I find for myself at the local level is that there are a lot of coaches and players that are, I don't want to say scared, but I would use the term scared to approach me as a female when they want to ask questions versus they would gladly rush to the male referees and be like, man, ref, what you see? What's going on? Why this? Why that? But when it comes to me, it's almost like, okay, how do I approach this woman and get my point across? For me personally, I look at it and I say, you know, I would prefer you to treat me the same way as you would treat the male, because in a sense, it seems as if you want to ask, but you don't want to come off as aggressive. But I understand that as a player, this is a part of the game. And so I don't want you to feel as if you're intimidating me if you come to me in a somewhat aggressive manner. Or even if it's not aggressive, but you approach me respectively, you can still ask me the question and I can still give you an answer. A lot of times when they do build up the nerve, I guess, to ask questions, I find the high school students easily approachable versus the seniors, because the high school kids, they want to know what's going on. What did I do wrong? Miss Ref, tell me where did I go wrong so I could know this is what not to do the next time. And so in that perspective, what I do is whenever we get a break, I will say, hey, listen, this is what you did wrong. This is where you went wrong. This is what the rule says. This is not what it says. This is what it says not to do. And that's how I build up that communication with them. In the international arena, it's almost the same thing, but the players know more of the game. They study the rules. The coaches know more of the game. They also study the rules. And so you wouldn't get that same level of discomfort per se. They will come and they will ask, but it's not as often as at the local level, because I realize that at the local level, a lot of our players just pick up the ball, come to the court, and they won't play the ball. They don't really study the game, study the rules, whereas at the international level, these coaches take time to study the game and the rules and ensure that their players are aware of the games and the rules as well. And like Vanessa said, the coaches don't know you, the players don't know you, so it's like, okay, you come out, you do your best, you facilitate the game, make sure that everything goes accordingly. If there's something that goes wrong, they will come to you in a respectable manner and ask you, what did I do wrong? Okay, when you have an opportunity, you explain to them what's going on. Yes, I missed that call. I'll look out for it next time. Thanks for telling me. I'll make sure that my partners are aware, or we'll keep an eye on it, you know, that kind of way. So that's how I approach the communication aspect with coaches and players as a female official.
Thank you very much, Therese, for your insight. Ms. Martindale, do you want to add something? Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Hey, everyone. My name is Jillian Martindale, referee national instructor from Barbados. And I think one of the things that really helped me as a referee was my experience as a player, as a coach, as an international referee, as a referees commissioner, and now a referees instructor. One of the things that stands out most, and I think that is the basis of anything you do in officiating in basketball, is having basic basketball understanding. Knowing basketball terminologies, knowing individual offensive and defensive skills, knowing what is creating contact, how do players create contact, understanding game tempo, individual offensive skills. As a player, I was able to understand and apply to being a referee things like pick and rolls and trapping and that kind of stuff. Okay, so when we talk about offensive patterns of play, like you have to know the style of play, because the style of play will adjust to your movement on the court. And especially when you're table side and you're backing the coach, they probably have the same angle as you, so it's very important. So all this comes on the basketball understanding, and the more you apply basketball understanding to refereeing and also to coaching, right? Like I think that relationship between the referees and the coaches, because at the end of the day, the referees are providing a service, right? And when we listen to the coaches tonight, and okay, so I'll go back a little bit. As Kendall keep reinforcing, it happened at home. Most of the situations, most of the experience came from refereeing local games. They're not the most professional games, but sometimes you could find things that you would not imagine that would happen in the game could happen in a local game at home. Okay, and like I listen to the coaches and they talk about the referees and what they expect of the referees, and then they mention tactics. Okay, and I think when you kind of like get into the tactics because you don't understand and recognize that it is a tactic, then I think that's where like we have like the clashing. Okay, and then that's when maybe he wants to get hot and wants to break your concentration, because if you buy into it, then you automatically give the technical when you could have just listened a little bit. So game tempo, understanding how the teams attempt to influence the tempo at which the game is played will help referees to anticipate when changes might be made and therefore be ready to adjust. I think once we kind of use our basketball understanding and take these things into, understanding game tempo, like another important thing is the coach and the referees and the players and the referees relationship. If there's one thing to take away from these modules over the past months or weeks, is understanding that relationship. Players are the games and referees and coaches service the game. Each role is different, but all are equally important. Understanding the perspective of each other will help to form positive relationships and avoid situations of antagonism.
Excellent.
All that is saying, they're asking the referees to have referee understand the game, and then they're also asking them to go out of the rule in modern day basketball. Like basketball is more advanced, so we're looking at more play situations, more entertainment, and we're moving away from the rules. And I think once we understand this, it will help. And this took me from international basketball, from refereeing local basketball, and I've refereed like many finals. I've been to CBC finals. I refereed with Freddie and Kendall, and then it took me to the world stage where I refereed like 3 world championships, 1 European men and women championships, and I could name a few more. So I think what helped me is having referee understanding the game, understanding the tempo of the game, and also understanding the coaches and building that relationship with the coaches. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. And I just want to say the reason why I asked these three ladies and three great officials to speak is because I wanted to definitely have their insight, coming from the female aspect of FIBA basketball, because coming from the female aspect, I know they probably had much more challenges as a male coming into refereeing in FIBA basketball, and like now, in FIBA they have 3 level of certification. You have the black, you have the green, and you have the white. And for a female to get certified as a license, a black license, that female has to run the same amount of laps as the males. They have to run that 10 minutes, 86 laps. So again, the female, having a great female aspect is very important for our region, because right now, I think we only have 2 certified female referees in the CBC. So hopefully, when come next year, February, we could definitely have more certified FIBA referees. I see Mr. Clark.
English speaking.
English speaking, yes.
CBC,
Thank you,
yeah.
Frederick. Thank you very much. Mr. Clark, if you have any questions, we are about to wrap up. So raise your hands, ask your questions. Mr. Clark, go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't get a good answer to the question I asked earlier, but I'm gonna ask it in a different way. Where you have a very aggressive player that you give tech and he got thrown out the game, and you got an aggressive coach that you give a tech and got him throughout the game, and then in the future you have a game with the same individual, and not to make it look like you're carrying that last game over into this game. How would referees deal with a situation like that?
Okay, I'm going to tell you my experience. From my experience, anybody else could chime in if they seem, if they would like to comment. My experience, I try to treat every game as the same. The reason for that, I try to read, I have been in many situations where I gave coaches, players, team, benches, technical fouls. But again, as referees, we have to stay on that professional level where we come to serve the game. We come to serve the game. Although the coaches may feel a way when they see you walk and the coach, oh God, here comes Casey again. You still have to maintain that level of professionalism, because it's important not just for you, but for the refereeing crew, that who is refereeing that game. I've been in many situations where a referee has messed up big time internationally, and the referee supervisor put that person back on that team's game just to see how that referee will react, if he will carry out his duties just as is, or the way how he approach the game will be different. We as referees, again, have to come to the arena holding a higher standard of ethics, holding a higher standard of professionalism, holding a higher standard of game service, because we control the game. We as the officials is the ones who run the game. Without the referees, there's no game. So we have to have a different approach. And I know yourself, Mr. Clark, many others, Mr. Brown, Cunningham, Vanessa, Gillian, and on and on. have had these scenarios come up from time to time to time. But yet, we still have to be the bigger person, as we like to say. And even as the pregame, approach that player and say, hey, you know you was wrong in that game yesterday when I gave you that technical foul. Or even that coach, I say, hey, coach, that interpretation of the rule, you know, X, Y, and Z. That's where our communication skills comes in, and that's where our people skills comes in. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Brown. I see no more comments or no more hand raised for his final comments. Mr. Brown, still there?
Thank you very much, Kendall, for leading the discussion this evening. Certainly enlightening. It's always good hearing from coaches. And while it is important to hear from referees, but it's more important to hear from coaches. Years ago, when we placed people in the order of things, it was like referees, players, and coaches. But that has since changed. It's players, coaches, referees. And Kendall have indicated time and time again during this exercise that we are service providers. We're there to provide a service for the game, notwithstanding all of the other elements that comes with it, the psychological part of it, officiating, etc., etc. This is our last night, and I think we're going out with a bang. And so I wish to extend much thanks to not only to those coaches who participated, all of the participants who showed up this evening, and particularly those who would have given their take on any number of issues that were addressed this evening. We certainly send out a special thanks to the women who have participated. You may be aware that FIBA is now concentrating on women in refereeing to the point where, and I don't want to just say it for the women, but they're now going to increase the age for referees. And they're thinking about giving an extra spot for women referees. So there you have it. And so we want to thank those ladies who would have given their take, particularly Therese, Jillian, and Vanessa, all of whom would have refereed at the international level. Once again, we would like to thank our president, Mr. Glenn Clark, who would have nudged this program. And we've been going now for a little over 2 months, actually, almost on a daily basis. And we have also incorporated the table officiating, not as a part of this program, but as another program, and that is to start again. Module 2 will start on the 11th of August. We've now completed this exercise. Thank you, Mr. Clark. I want to thank Mr. Ian Yearwood, who actually managed our platform from time to time, and it was assisted by Ms. Christine Cunningham and Mr. Patrick Haynes. Also, we want to thank Mr. Patrick Haynes, who managed the platform for knowledge sharing. So everything that we've covered from day one, you could go to the knowledge sharing platform and you can get all that information. I mean, verbatim. Everything that was said and done, it's on the knowledge sharing platform. So don't be shy, go and get it. Another thing is you manage all of our examination, all of our tests. And I'm happy to say that most of the tests, most of you people have been doing a good job with passing. And so kudos to you, bravo to you. All of our instructors, we had any number of instructors, of course. We had Kendall, Norval, myself, Ian, Jillian, Jennifer, Alejandro from Mexico, Mr. Julio Anaya from Panama, Mr. Mensek from Suriname. Who else I'm missing? Christian Wilmore from the Bahamas, Mr. Roberto Vasquez, from Puerto Rico, and Mr. Ramon Johnson from St. Vincent and the Grenadine. I think that is the number right there. Am I missing anybody, Kendall?
No, no. The nail on it.
I think I covered all of them. And then, of course, Mr. Yearwood and myself would have managed each module. We were the module managers, so to speak. So at the end of the day, at the end of each module, we had a test, and we would manage the test. We would build the test, and then execute that through the testing platform run by Mr. Patrick Haynes. Of course, we want to thank the CONCACAF, Confederation of Central American and Caribbean Basketball Association. He is the Secretary General, and he provided the platform for us to operate. So everything administratively, registrations, of course, Ian managed the registrations. And so anything that you want, you can literally get it. All right, by country, by individual, all of that information is there. I think this item is very historical. We have never done anything like it before. We've touched base with any number of persons who we wouldn't have had the opportunity to do so in years past. And so we're thankful for Zoom. All right, and thankful that we can actually link up through the waves, through Zoom, and to have these kinds of conversation. And so there are so many others to thank. And so having said that, I just want to leave you from a theoretical perspective on refereeing. I started with this, and I think it will be more fitting. It is fitting to end with this. It says, basketball as a game is progressing every day. It is a natural environmental development process that takes place unconditionally, and it is called evolution. So it's happening, whether you like it or not, get with it or you will get left behind. The game, and more so refereeing, is completely different from 10 years ago. Presently, top-level refereeing is improving faster than the game itself, and higher standards of performances are expected every year. Higher standard of performances are expected every year. The present pace causes us to adopt a motto of, and I quote, "What was considered exceptionally good yesterday is considered standard quality today and below average quality tomorrow," unquote. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what the game is all about. And I think Ms. Jillian Martindale would have mentioned the fact that FIBA has introduced a new component of referee training, and that is basketball knowledge. And she covered all of the areas, basically, in a nutshell, of basketball knowledge. The basketball knowledge component that we now teach was developed by coaches. It was literally developed by coaches. And so the average referee now will really go to coaching 101, all right? Basketball knowledge, coaching 101. Having that understanding of how the game is played, how coaches and players react, how fans react, and how you react to certain players or anticipate certain players happening in the game and being in the right position to actually referee, and that is being an active referee. And so these are some of the things, and these kinds of conversation that we're having now from both sides, it's just, I mean, outstanding. Many years ago, referees went to referee clinics. It's not that way anymore. For years now, I mean, from my perspective, I've invited everybody who is intricately connected to the game of basketball to attend referee clinics. And so Even with table officials, we invite table officials to attend the referee clinics and vice versa. And this is how we're gonna get better. We even invited the news media so they can have a wonderful understanding of the game as well. And so we're trying to get better. We must get better. The game changes every year. And so we must keep pace with the game. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you so kindly for weighing in. I want to thank our president from the Caribbean Basketball Confederation, Mr. Diane Clark.
Frederick, you're mute.
Certainly, we're looking forward to continuing in the future. Once again, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night. Thank you for participating.
Good night. Yeah, we're telling them all.
Yeah. Have a good night, all. Good night.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you, Kai, Fiona. Lydia, good night. Thank you.